Somewhere in France, in the summer of 1944, a farmer is standing at the edge of a field, watching American soldiers. There's a Sherman tank parked near the hedgerow, 40 tons of steel. And as he watches, 4 young men walk up to it, take hold of it, lift it off the ground, and turn it around by hand. The farmer says nothing. He goes back to his village, and he tells everyone that the Americans are extraordinarily strong. That tank weighed about 90 kilograms. It was made of rubber, and the men who lifted it belonged to a unit that officially did not exist. 1,100 soldiers, sent to the front line with almost no real weapons, carrying inflatable tanks, recorded sound, and fake radio traffic. Their job was to convince the German army that they were an entire armored division. Sometimes two. They did it more than 20 times across France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Germany. And then they were ordered never to speak of it, and they didn't for more than 40 years. On paper, they were called the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, a name so boring it tells you nothing, which was exactly the point. Everyone else called them the Ghost Army. They were activated in early 1944, and the concept behind them was simple to state and very strange to actually attempt. Instead of adding real soldier to a position, add the appearance of soldiers. Let the enemy see a division that isn't there. Because in a war, what the other side believes about your strength shapes their decisions just as much as your actual strength does, maybe more. An army that thinks there are 2 armored divisions in front of it will not attack that place. It will send its reserves somewhere else. It will point its artillery in the wrong direction. It will wait. And every hour it waits is an hour your real soldiers spend somewhere the enemy isn't looking. To understand why an army would spend money on rubber tanks, you have to understand the problem the Allies actually had. Fronts are long, enormously long, and there are never enough men to make every part of them strong. So a commander is constantly making a choice. Concentrate your force where it matters, and accept that other parts of the line become thin, dangerously thin. Now, here's the danger in that. If the enemy discovers where you are weak, they will hit exactly there, which means the thin part of your line has one job. Look thick. That is the entire purpose of the Ghost Army. They were not there to fight. They were there to be a rumor in the right place at the right time. So who do you recruit for a job like that? Not, it turns out, the strongest soldier you can find. The army went looking in art schools and advertising agencies. They pulled in painters, illustrators, set designers, architects, sound engineers, and men who had worked in radio. The camouflage battalion at the core of the unit was full of people who had spent their lives learning how to make a flat surface look like a real object, which is precisely the skill the job required. Some of them became famous afterwards. One became one of the most important abstract painters of the 20th century. Another became a celebrated fashion designer, dressing the wealthiest people in America. Another became a landmark photographer. At the time, they were young men in uniform, carrying sketchbooks through a war, drawing constantly, because that's what they'd always done. Many of those drawings survive. They are some of the most personal records of the campaign that exists. The most famous part of the operation was also the simplest. Inflatable equipment, rubber tanks, rubber trucks, rubber artillery pieces, rubber aircraft, hundreds of them that could be carried by a few men, inflated with compressors, and positioned in a field in a matter of hours. From the air, at altitude, through a reconnaissance camera, they looked correct. But here's what separates a trick that works from one that gets people killed. A field full of tanks is not just tanks. It's everything a real unit leaves behind. So the Ghost Army did the rest. They drove bulldozers in looping patterns to lay down track marks in the mud. Because a tank that arrives somewhere leaves a trail showing how it got there. They set out tents, laundry lines, cooking fires with real smoke. They cut fake supply dumps into tree lines. They left rubbish, and crucially, they made it slightly imperfect. A real unit hides badly. It's tired, it's rushed, and bits of it are always visible. A perfectly concealed division looks like exactly what it is. Someone trying very hard to be seen just enough. But an armored division is not only a thing you see, it's a thing you hear for miles, long before it arrives. So a second unit was built around a completely different idea. Engineer went to a training base in Kentucky and recorded the real thing. Tanks moving over different ground, engines idling and revving, bridging equipment being assembled, men shouting, hammering, working. Those recordings were carefully edited into programs, each one telling a story with sound alone. A unit arriving, a unit digging in, engineers building a crossing at night. Then they were played back through enormous speakers mounted on armored half-tracks. Speakers so powerful the sound could carry something like 15 miles on the right night. Picture that from the German side of the line. It's dark. You cannot see anything. And you can hear clearly a large armored formation moving into position directly opposite you. There's nothing to disbelieve. Your ears are working perfectly. Now, the third layer, and this is the part I find genuinely remarkable: radio. Both sides listen constantly to each other's radio traffic. Even when a message is in code, the volume and pattern of transmissions tells you where units are and what they're doing. So a fake division needed fake radio traffic, and that raised a problem most people wouldn't think of. Every radio operator sending Morse code by hand has a personal rhythm. The exact spacing, the weight of the taps, the tiny hesitations. It's called a fist, and it is as individual as handwriting. German listeners had been tracking specific Allied operators for months. They knew these men by sound. So the Ghost Army's radio operator would meet the real operators of a real unit, sit with them, listen to them work, and learn to imitate them. Then the real unit would move away in silence, and the impersonators would take over the frequency, sending the same kind of traffic, in the same handwriting, from a place where the real unit no longer was. Somewhere on the other side of the line, a German listener heard a familiar hand and marked the map, and was completely wrong. There was a fourth layer, and it was the most theatrical of all. Because a division doesn't only exist in a field or on a radio. It exists in a town, in the bars, the cafes, the traffic on the roads, the gossip of civilians. So the Ghost Army performed that too. They stitched on the shoulder patches of whichever division they were pretending to be, and changed them when the assignment changed. They painted the correct unit markings onto their vehicles and repainted them constantly. They posted military police at crossroads to direct traffic that barely existed. They drove the same few jeeps in circles through a town so it looked busy. And in at least one case, soldiers put on the insignia of generals and made sure they were seen in the cafes of a nearby town, because a general in a place implies an army in that place. Then they went to bars and let things slip, loudly, names of units, where they were headed, knowing that in an occupied country, some of what is said in a bar travels to the other side within days. They were, in effect, a touring theater company, performing a division for an audience that would kill them if the performance failed. In September 1944 in Luxembourg, they were given a job that shows exactly how thin the line could be. A gap had opened, a long stretch of front, tens of miles wide, with almost nothing behind it, because the real armored division that had been holding it was needed elsewhere. The Ghost Army was sent to fill it, not to defend it, to be it. They set up their inflatables, ran their radio traffic, played their sounds, wore the right patches, and impersonated an armored division across an enormous frontage for about a week. And this was genuinely dangerous. If the Germans had probed hard, they would have found a few hundred lightly armed men and a lot of rubber. The unit's own officers knew it. They asked for real tanks to be sent, just a handful, so that anyone who came close would meet something that fired back. For days, the deception held. Then it got harder. Word spread among local civilians that the Americans there weren't quite what they appeared, and once civilians know something, it moves. The unit was pulled out before the story caught up with them. The gap had been covered. Nobody had attacked it. It would be easy to tell this story as a purely charming one. Artists, rubber tanks, clever tricks. But it's worth being clear about what the job actually was. Their entire function was to attract attention, to be noticed, to make an enemy point its guns at them instead of at somebody else. And they did that while carrying almost nothing that could shoot back. They were shelled. They came under fire. Men in the unit were killed, and others were wounded. Being the decoy is not a safe assignment. It is the opposite of a safe assignment. Every time the deception worked, it worked because somebody believed there was something there worth firing at. And then the war ended, and they went home, and they said nothing. The operation stayed classified. The methods were still considered useful, and nobody wanted an enemy to learn how the trick was done. So these men returned to ordinary lives.